Welcome to On Scene with GoJoe Patrol, the podcast where community safety meets real stories from the street. We'll share emerging trends in private security with the lessons and tips we've learned over our almost 30 years in business. We will also go beyond the patrol vehicle to talk with the people, various organizations, and businesses who are doing great work here in our community every day. I'm your host, Harry Sladich. Now, let's get on scene. All right, welcome back to On Scene with GoJoe Patrol, the podcast where community safety meets the real stories of the street. We're going to share emerging trends. We're going to share lessons that we've learned, things that are happening in private security, along with going beyond the patrol vehicle and talking to people in the community that are doing great work to help our region grow. I'm Harry Sladich. I'm your host. Let's go on scene. I am excited to talk about some technology. It's something that's impacting every single business that's out there. Security is being impacted as well. And we get a lot of questions saying, is AI and robots and drones, are they going to take the place of your employees? We've done a lot of research in this. We've gone to a lot of shows. We'll be at a show in Las Vegas later this month. But it's our pragmatic belief that no, robots and AI will not replace the human component. But what will happen is the human component plus AI, robots, and drones will replace the companies that don't have it, right? So it's inevitable. It's coming. The space is there, and we're going to adapt to it as fast as possible. One nice thing about technology and AI or automation is a lot of times employees call out sick or they're not there. The turnover rate's high in a lot of businesses. And that's because things become mundane or routine. And I think that what we're seeing is the AI and some of the automation and robots are doing the tasks that are really, really repetitive. And I think what that's doing is helping turnover, and it's creating better data and better information. Humans are always going to have to provide the strategic planning, oversight, pivoting. This doesn't work, let's try this. AI technology can't do that. It just can't. It is also playing a role, and you've seen this in movies and the police departments where there's a very dangerous situation and they send the robot in, right? The robot goes in to, pick up the bag or break the door down. A lot of cases, security companies will be using that as well, in that we're going to be in areas that are remote. Maybe it's inclement weather. Let's say you have a perimeter of a fence line that needs to be patrolled over and over again. Well, that's a perfect situation for a robot to follow the line. It's equipped with all the cameras that can report what's going on and so forth. So, it's going to help in a lot of ways. And I think it's going to further private security as it relates to data collection, not on you personally. We don't care what you do, but we want to see patterns as it relates to protecting our clients. Technology needs to be programmed. So having a robot wander around aimlessly is no good to anyone, right? So it needs to know what to do. A drone needs to know what to do. A camera needs to be fed what to look for. And so you still need humans to do that. We are going to, Major Bambino, my business partner, and I are headed to ICS. It's one of the largest security shows in the nation. It's in Las Vegas. We'll talk about that after I get back. It's quite mind-blowing. It's everything from entry control, from the door to these massive gates, to license plate readers, to drones, to robots, you name it. It's really quite amazing. The problem is that a lot of it isn't affordable right now for most clients, particularly our clients. What we want to do is choose something that is sustainable and repeatable, and it's not something that's so expensive that our client can't afford it. So there's a lot of technology we could have already deployed, but it's just too costly, and it doesn't make sense for the application. We know that security is a necessary evil, right? People don't wake up every day and say, I cannot wait to pick a security company today. It doesn't happen. I wish it did, but it doesn't happen. They see it as an expense. So we want to make sure that expense is as low as possible, and it's sustainable, and it's getting you the data that you need. We have clients who call us after something happened. We try to say, look, let's do a little bit on a regular basis to prevent something big from happening. So little prevention is there. Thieves and crooks, they're products of easy accessibility, right? What's convenient? So if you make it less convenient for them, they're moving on. They're not going to mess with it. If they see a camera there, they see a car rolling through every once in a while, they're going to say, I'm going to pick someplace else. So our job is really to make it less convenient for them, and move from there. The experts are really saying that as we look at private security moving forward, there's 3 layers. Layer 1 is the AI monitoring that's been around for quite some time. It's those cameras, it's sensors, it's the analytics, it's thermal imaging. AI dramatically increases our ability to look at a camera. So GoJoe Patrol's monitoring center, where we monitor all of our locations, we've got the monitors up. The cameras are showing hundreds of images. We'd have to have 4 or 5 people there watching them. Well, AI allows us to only pay attention to what the AI has been programmed to look for. So it can determine, is that a dog? Is that a branch blowing? Or is that a human that's on the site? Or is that a perimeter breach? So what it does is it takes that eye-rubbing agony of someone trying to find a needle in the haystack, and they're watching it, and what it does is when it determines something's there, the image becomes bigger, and the person in our control center can say, what's that? They can zoom in. A lot of our speakers have talk-down speakers where we can address them and say, excuse me, we're closed. Would you please remove yourself from the premises, and so on. So that AI is going to really give us that. It also is getting to the point, we don't use this, but it's facial recognition. A lot of places, particularly in Las Vegas, for example, are using facial recognition. Airports are using facial recognition. My wife hates the fact that her picture is being taken, and I tell her it's being taken everywhere, right? So that's there. These cameras and these AI systems, what they're doing is they're creating this data. So they'll be able to tell us that in a 30-day period, this gate is breached over and over and over again, right? It can say, this is the pattern that we're seeing in your security setup, right? It'll give us a risk score. So not only does it tell us what's happening so we can prevent it, it helps us speak to our customers to say, we need to fix this because this is where all the problems are occurring, right? So that data and that analytics really give us the opportunity to dive in there and and take a look at that. And it really helps with retention because we had a lot of turnover with our dispatch center just because of the tedious work that was there. This has transformed it, quite frankly. It really helps them work on things that are there. Our dispatch center is also in contact with all of our patrol officers. The technology has allowed us to monitor when the guards get on shift. So if they're supposed to work a construction site, they can't check in for their job unless they're in a geofenced area. If they fail to check in, it notifies our dispatch center who says, where's John? We call up John. John, where are you? If John's not there on time, we dispatch a patrol unit to take the spot until we get somebody else there. So this technology has allowed it. Back in the 15 years ago, we'd have the client calls and say, John didn't show up. How embarrassing is that? So what we've done now is we've used this technology to help us, make sure that the guard is there, make sure that they're doing what we call post orders, meaning they're doing what the customer wants. I want that blue door checked. I want a picture of it. I want that checked. So all of the orders when a guard comes on site are customized. We call them bespoke. So whether John, Judy, Sam, or Bob comes on site, they pull up the orders on their phone and they know exactly what to do, and it's done the same way every time. So that's where technology is really taking off. We keep them very busy. The old joke that the guards fall asleep at night, they're terminated on the spot in our company, but we make sure that that's not an option because they're active all night long with things that they have to do. So technology's helped us do that. Layer 2 is that operations center that I talked about. Our security cameras that we just rolled out, the trailer cameras, where it's the big pole, the flashing blue light. We can move it around. It's on car dealerships. It's in parking lots. You'll be shocked to know that the research we've done is very few of those cameras are ever monitored. So they're basically there as a prevention, right? So they think that the camera's there, I'm being watched, therefore I won't go. I don't disagree with that, but I think monitoring it is critical, because if they finally get used to nothing happening, then they're going to go further, they're going to be bolder, they're going to break something, they're going to take a car, they're going to do something. So our patrol trailers are actually monitored the same way all of our other cameras are. And again, our dispatch can say, excuse me, you need to leave. If they don't leave, then we dispatch a patrol unit. The patrol unit goes by and says, you got to go, or they call the police. So it's very, very active instead of passive. A lot of these cameras are passive. Interestingly enough, there's been a lot of studies on just the mere appearance of eyes watching. I'm happy to say that GoJoe Patrol, and Joe will be watching, fits right into this. I'd like to say that I knew about this data before we created our branding, but we didn't. We were very lucky. But the pattern basically says, the subconscious says that I'm being watched, therefore I'm going to behave differently. So the studies basically showed that there affects cameras on protocol and behavior, the watching eyes phenomenon. Watching eyes influence behavior. And these were studies that were done over in Europe and the US. And it says the watching eye effect suggests that just feeling watched may be enough for us to modify our actions. Okay, so that pattern. So people are more conscious of their behavior and helpful when cameras are present. People are more publicly self-aware. The idea of others watching positively has affected their behavior, and crime behavior is reduced as a feeling for that. So there are studies after studies, and we didn't do this. This is all independent work that's been done for years that says if they feel that they're being watched, it changes behavior. So that's why the cameras are so popular and why you see them. The only difference between GoJoe Patrol and the others is we actually monitor it 24 hours, and we actually speak and respond. Our newest flyer's out. We call it Eyes in the Sky, GoJoe Patrol Eyes in the Sky, and it includes a lot of fun stuff. But that monitoring center where these cameras are being monitored, the dispatch, the talk-down cameras, all of that is really something that we've adopted. Some of these data centers the technology that we can put in are mind-blowing. We basically are adapting our technology to the clients that we have. So, as we enter into the realm of guarding data centers or more high security areas, we'll start investing more in entry control and stuff like that. But it's really, really cool. Some of the robots that we saw, one is this dog. It looks like a giant spider, but it's a dog, and it goes up the stairs, and it looks around, and heads turn. There's a camera on it, and it speaks. My business partner Major asked if he could try to push it over. We tried to push it over. It's pretty heavy, but it gets back up because the legs articulate around, and it stands back up. We've seen the robots that are on wheels that go around. They're not there. The GoJoe Patrol that's operating in Bethesda, Maryland, and Montgomery County, Maryland, the city contracted with a robot to roam the parking garages, right? So it goes up and down the city garages. Well, number one, it was getting in the way. It was frustrating people. They were honking at it because it moves slow. And the second wave of criticism was, it's filming me. Why is it filming me? I don't want to be filmed. And so they spent a fortune on this robot and basically had to pull it. And they're back to the human component of security, which is in the patrol cars or walking around. The difference, again, as you all know, it's quite obvious, is the human guard can say good afternoon and hello and observe and use empathy and understanding, where the robot is just roaming around based on its programming. So, as we see studies, the private security guard industry is forecasted to double in revenues in the next 10 years. So it will get up to $500 billion globally. And you see that a lot of that growth is through technology, but what's following right behind it at the same pace is that human guard, that manned guard. So the manned guard's not going away. And that leads me to the third level, which is that on-site guard, right? Someone has to respond. If something's seen, someone has to be there. The guard can intuitively say, I'm going to double check behind that door, or I'm going to go back around there, or something caught my eye. Technology just can't do that, right? For that further investigation. Interacting with people, right? Our whole motto is to de-escalate it. So if I come at you like this versus what's going on, the outcome's going to be completely different. So the outcome of your encounter is completely dictated by how you approach someone, right? So your body language, the way you're standing, the way you're approaching them. The problem with security guards is their egos have been too engaged over the years, right? They've got everything on them. They try to look like the police so much that, but they're not. They're not the police. And the public knows that they're not the police. And the more they act like that, the more the situation escalates. So at GoJoe Patrol, we know we're a security guard. Most of our guards are unarmed, and they're approaching them saying, what's going on tonight? Do you need help? You can't be here. I understand. Having that dialogue. I think what people also forget is that, let's say that we yell at them, we get them off the property, and the owner says, that's what I wanted. I wanted these SOBs out of here. Well, those SOBs come back when we're gone and they throw a rock through your window, or they vandalize your property. We remove them with as much empathy and respect as we can give them, but they still have to leave. Make no mistake about it. We get the job done, but we approach it a different way, right? Technology can't do that. Technology can't read the room, right? Technology can't kind of joke with them. Technology can't say, look, guys, I'm at the end here. We're going to have the police come. We're going to trespass you, right? Can never do that. That's why they'll always be a part of that. So it can detect loitering. Someone has to go say something. It can detect suspicious activity. Someone's got to go investigate it, right? It can identify a break-in and vandalism. Someone has to respond to that and monitor it and get the police there, right? So that human component is always going to be there, and we're really seeing that in our model. We've been around now. This is our 29th year. GoJoe Patrol really started out with just putting off-duty Washington State troopers into situations. So Major Bambino, my partner, had a different partner before my wife and I bought into the business. And their sole model was, if you need somebody, you're going to get an off-duty trooper. We still do that. We still do that today, where you can hire us to put in an off-duty sheriff's department or trooper. They can be in their full uniform. They can be in a suit. The beauty of that is that there's no mistake that individual standing there is law enforcement. The downside is it's very expensive. We pay the troopers a substantial amount more than we pay our guards, just because of their training and what you're getting. But we evolved into GoJoe Patrol through a lot of the influence that I had in the hospitality industry, where a 500-room hotel had assault, we had domestic violence, we had drunks, we had theft, and we couldn't go up to a guy and say, "Hey, pal, get your ass out of here." We had to say, "Good evening. What's going on? May I help?" Be a little bit more measured in our response, and to this day, we carry that through. So we bring that hospitality into our guards, where we're telling them we want them to seek to understand. So we lead with questions, not commands, and it served us very, very well. So that's something technology is just never going to do, right? It just can't. I want to move into drones. Drones are like the most coolest thing, I think, in the world. And they're coming in big time. I've been reading a lot of articles on this. It says we're now approaching what is expected to be the catalyst for widespread aerial drone adoption, right? So you've all seen it. Amazon's delivering packages, and we're out there doing that. We've seen a couple options we being my business partner and I, down in Las Vegas at the show. Again, they're just too expensive, but they're getting to the point where I think in 2026 we'll be deploying that. It's called DAR, Drone Alarm Response. And it's something that I really see where security is going to go here very quickly, and it's going to reshape private security in the next 5 to 10 years. It's going to augment everything that I just talked about. It's going to add to it. So, traditional patrols, GoJoe Patrol, we have about 18 cars out at night. It's a guard in a car, driving a route, getting out, checking doors, making sure that everything's okay. A large footprint or campus could take a guard 45 minutes to get through it. A drone could do it in about 5 minutes, right? So the drone's up above, it's flying, it's checking everything out. And it's not best for all locations, but for example, let's say that a developer is putting in 100 home subdivision, right? So 100 homes are being built at the same time. We've all seen those, right? Well, our guard is driving the streets, the designated streets, going through, stopping, shining a light, maybe getting out, but they're doing that. The bad guys are running through the backyard with the copper and all the stuff, and they're not having to be restricted to the same route that we are. You launch a drone up, that drone can go over the whole development in a grid. It has flashing lights. It's got thermal cameras on it. Just the sound of a drone is concerning, right? You've all heard it. So in the middle of the night, the guy's in the house, he hears the drone go up, the lights are flashing on it. We can track them, we can follow them. While we're following them, we're on the phone with the police, we're on the phone with our patrol officer saying, go to this site. It's really, really an effective tool. Again, it's an expensive proposition. So what builders are doing right now is they're saying, okay, my loss in damages to the wall, stolen appliances, and copper is X. How does that compare to a $100,000 drone system? Okay, they're about the same. I'm just going to take the loss. I'm going to build it in. Well, now the technology is getting to the point where we think this year we'll be able to offer something that's a lot more reasonable and can be moved from project to project. So the drone system, for example, in this case, or a business, the drone would sit on top of a building. It looks like this huge doghouse. And every 20 minutes or so, the doors open, the drone is up. Once the drone is up, the operator is notified that the drone is up. It's all been cleared by the FAA, and it flies its route. When it lands, then the operator can take its eyes off of it, but when it's in the air, it has to be watched, right? So we see that coming. It also can be triggered, so we can do it as a route, right? As a 20 minutes. Drones can also be launched at an alarm trigger. So let's say that we put up perimeter detection, right? So if someone breaks the perimeter detection, the drone is launched, right? Just like that. If an alarm goes off, the drone is launched. The drone is programmed to go right to the spot and find out what's going on. When we sat down with a couple of the drone companies that we're really, really like, they basically showed us what they did. So they took this model of the area that we wanted watched, right? So there was a building here, there was a next door neighbor there was a tree there, and they basically build these boxes around every obstacle that the drone might encounter. So as they're mapping, as they're mapping this area, they're saying, okay, put a box around that tree, that building. They're getting with the FAA and they're saying the flight ceiling is here, it needs to stay below here, this is what I want to do, and then they program it. So when the drone is launched, it's almost going through like a video game where it knows exactly where to avoid, where to go, where to stop, where to hover. So when that alarm is triggered, no one has to do anything else. It automatically goes and says, that's where I've got to go look. So it's unbelievable how this is changing the world of security. And again, these drone solutions to date have just been so expensive. We've talked to a couple home builders, as I mentioned before. It's just not something that they want to do. Everybody wonders who's going to pay for it. So we wait. We've been around 29 years. If it doesn't happen this year, it'll happen next year. But Our fear is that we're going to wake up one day and be left behind. So we don't want to ignore this, but we also aren't going to introduce it until it's something that can really show an ROI to our customer. And our other locations, we want to test it here first before we deploy it to the East Coast or to our other locations. We want to make sure that we beta tested here. The cameras that we bought, the trailer cameras that we bought, we're deploying. They're great. Technology is coming out. There's big players in the space right now that are really shaking up the industry. So the other thing that we have to worry about, and just like you and your business, what are the disruptors? What are the disruptors in our space? And can we stay in front of them, and can we adapt with them, right? As opposed to, well, the phone just keeps ringing and we've done this for this long. I don't know why we would ever change. And it's worked this way that so far, why change it? So we're very impatient. I'm especially impatient. I want to know what's next. We have to balance that with, is this the flavor of the day, or is this a trend? We were a little late to the party on the security trailers, and I think that benefited us. They just weren't a solution that our customers could afford. And now the technology's changed and kind of headed in a different direction. We're still in it, but thankfully we're not so invested that we can't pivot to some of the other things that are on the horizon. So we're always looking for that. We also get asked, well, what type of security do you do, or who is your client? Well, we just say, well, who isn't our client? Our client base is so diverse that it's mind-boggling. So if the banking industry took a hit, or the technology industry took a hit, or education took a hit, we don't really see that impact on our business because we're so diversified. Our clients are everything from U-Haul, where they were taking catalytic converters off there. We're watching Goodwill drop sites. We're on college campuses. We're in parking lots. We're in banks. We're doing patrols. We're checking doors. We're at casinos. We're at hotels. We're at plants. We're in industrial parks. We're everywhere. And so, and by the way, it's as little as one stop a night. We have some clients that just have us check their door one time a night, and it's virtually almost free. It's not free, I'm kidding, but it's very inexpensive for us to come by and check something. We do have a few individuals who want their private homes checked. That's not a large part of our business, but we can do it. We can, if you're going to go on vacation and you have us come by while you're there, our bandwidth is pretty deep, but it would have to be something that is sustainable for us as well. But we do just about anything you can think of. So our stops involve everything from just driving through the parking lot, getting out to checking the door, to spending up to 25 minutes to an hour inside the building each stop. So it's quite amazing. We've been asked to do other things. We've been asked to do executive protection. We've done that before. Our history comes from really doing just about everything you can think of as it comes to security. We've done executive protection, as I've mentioned. We've done moves for the Marshal Service. So the federal marshals want prisoners transported to mundane appointments. Well, they don't want a U.S. Marshal doing it, so we bought a specific car. That car was outfitted so that we could transport these federal prisoners. We did that for a long time. We worked for a nationally known jeweler where we would pick up the suitcase. We'd go into one of their stores, we'd pick it up, and we would transport it to another store. We did that in 14 different states for over 11 years. We would call them diamond moves. I'm sure there were other things in the box other than diamonds, but we would coordinate with other law enforcement agencies across the country to move this product. So executive protection, diamond moves, federal prisoners, you name it, we've done it, as much as checking somebody's house when they're away on vacation. So there's nothing we can't do, and we price it so that it's sustainable and it makes sense. Back to, no one wants to wake up and spend their money on security. The personality of the brand, I think most people know GoJoe. Joe will be watching. It's a funny story. We changed our name back in 2011. We were called State Protection Services. And we looked like every other security guard company, trying to look like the police. And we just decided we didn't want to be the brunt of any more jokes, and we didn't want to be posers or wannabes. We wanted to be what we were, a private security guard company. So we hired an agency in Spokane, Klunt Hosmer at the time, who came up with GoJoe Patrol. My business partner, Major, who was an active Washington State trooper, detective then, said, "That's a stupid idea. You're not really going to do that, are you? That's not really the name, is it?" And I said, "Yes, it is. We've decided that's the name." And so he went to work and asked his other law enforcement buddies what they thought, and they thought it was stupid too. Thankfully, he trusted me and his wife, and my wife said, "All right, let's go with it." And GoJoe was born because we didn't want it to be related to the police. We wanted to be retail. We wanted you to see the car and say, what do they do? And we wanted to be more than just Phil Blart, the mall security. And so the story of GoJoe Patrol goes back to a funny argument that ended up to be a company that's been pretty well known. And our personality is really, as I said, approach with questions, not commands, showing respect for others, no matter what their point in life is important. And it's paid off. And at the end of the night, we get it done. There's no way we don't get it done. I've spoken about passion on former podcasts. We're very passionate. Our clients have our cell numbers. So if there's something not right, you call us, it'll be dealt with immediately. We return calls immediately. And it's just good business practice. So anyway, I thought you might enjoy today learning a little bit about the evolution of security. You can go onto our website, gojoepatrol.com, and learn a lot more about us, our personality, and our brand. And hopefully you'll see more of our technology being launched as we look to develop some of these applications, get some press releases out, and let you know when that is up and running. And if you ever want to stop by and visit us, we're at 7011 East Trent. Thanks.